Oh, man. The whole point is to share it on here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Embarrass the shit out of yourself.
Keep the conversation, as random as possible.
And you're doing a fine job on your end.
I keep wanting to update that intro, but I'm like, man, it's so good and it's so simple. Why change it?
I like it. I mean, I'm sitting here just bopping, listening to it.
Yeah.
Nice, catchy intro.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Stardom right here on JG's Lounge. I'm your host, Jukebox, and as always, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd still be doing this, but I always appreciate having people as an audience, people that are interested in what we're doing here on the JG's Lounge. We got a lot happening. We got 5 active podcasts now. We got two new ones airing next week, and then another 2 within the next month. So thank you all for making this possible. And let's introduce our guest, Ev.O.Lution, man. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good, man. You actually, one of the new shows is yours with your buddy Carbon, man. Poetics. Are you excited about that new episode or new podcast?
I'm very excited. This is actually something we've been talking about for years, actually. Not really knowing how to get it going until now. But it's an exciting moment for both of us and a long time coming. So we are ready and we got things set up to go for a while, hopefully.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm excited for you too.
Yeah.
And then underneath us here, we got Sean, man, with the Shank Redemption podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm feeling a little out of place though, because I'm sitting here with Jukebox and Evolution, and I'm here with my stupid old regular name. I need a code word like Matchbox or something. I don't know. Slim 20, extra medium. That's my new extra medium.
So we could do something along with your last name, Shank something.
Oh God, no! Had enough of that for however many years.
Oh man, yeah, and your podcast is doing good too, man. Your format is different than most of the shows on here, and I actually like that it's so different than the rest of them.
I appreciate that you like it. I think format wise, I mean, I'm exposed to comics because of my work, but I mean, if you just mean the visual presentation, it's because I'm too technology stupid to do the split screen thing that you're doing here. So I just set up the camera and hope for the best.
Nah, man, it works, and that's the thing is a lot of people do that, and then sometimes they'll like whip out old phones and have them on individual guests, and they'll clip that and overlay the audio and all that crap. That's totally. I don't think it's worth it, to be honest.
You're giving me a headache already, brother.
That might
I just want to sit down and talk, dude. That's the thing. I just want to sit and talk with people. I mean, if eventually someday it made millions of dollars and I had somebody doing the cameras and all the stuff, you know what? Have at it. Clip the shit up and do the multi-shot thing. That's fine. I just want to talk to people, man. I just want to talk to people, find out about their stuff.
Yeah. That's what podcasting is all about, man. It's, at least in my eyes, and I'm sure it's Evolution's as well.
Absolutely.
Well, great podcast.
For today's episode,
I'm sorry. What was that, Sean?
I was just saying I had a blast when I was on with Evolution when I did your podcast, man. A lot of fun. Sorry, Jukebox.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
No, you're good, man. It's what we're doing here is amazing, and it's only going to continue to grow. So, with that being said, today's episode is about childhood memories. Those events that you remember, even though you don't remember most of your youth. There's always those events that happen. So this isn't going to be a normal one, like where I show 10 stupid clips. It's just going to be us telling stupid events that have happened in our lives. So, if that sounds interesting to you guys.
You got my wheels turning.
I've got a lot. I've got a lot, dude. It's just like, what do you pull? Like, there's there's discount bins in the store, and you walk in, it's like, wow, everything's $5, but which one do I choose? You know what I mean? There's so much. I mean, you want to just let's just cut loose and tell stories. I mean, how do you want to approach this?
How about I give it a start here, and like for me, before I even started school, I used to go to a daycare called Drum Farm. I was probably 4 years old, and I remember going on a field trip, which was really just a trip through the woods, and we had those old. Do you remember those water fountain, like hand washing?
I'm sorry, it just sounds like a hippie copy. You're trying to justify everything. We're like, well, it was called Drum Farm, and they walked us through the woods.
That is kind of how it was.
I'm actually picturing one of those creepy movies where you go out to the field with this little bitty house in the middle of the woods. That's what popped in my head.
No, it was a dumpster. I mean, yeah, they were killing people and stuff.
That has 4-year-olds out there slaughtering deer in the woods. That's what it was. But you remember those? You remember those old hand washing sinks that were like little fountains? It was kind of like a trough with like a step paddle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I remember washing our hands, and one of the kids slipped and fell, and one of the bolts on the step paddle was loose and went right through his head.
Oh.
And it wasn't deep, but it was enough to like leave it exposed. So when he got up, it was like in shock, and I remember all of us kids just like stared at him. Nobody even screamed. We were all just like, "What in the world's going on?" And that's all I remember. That's all I remember from it.
All right, you triggered a memory for me.
Same.
I was on this hill in my neighbor's yard when I was little, and it was just grassy, and I had this sled, and it wasn't snow, but it was just grassy, and it was a hill, and you could slide down. So I was playing on this hill and having a good time, and then the last time I went down, it kind of tipped to the side, and when I got up, I felt a little weird feeling in my knee, and I looked down, there's like a rusty nail that's halfway straight into my knee. And as a kid, when you see something like that, you're like, is this really like sticking out my knee? And then I looked around, and there was a sack, I guess, of rusty nails that was, I guess, somebody just tossed on the hill, and I was lucky enough to find one. So yeah, that ended up with me being in the hospital, and the nurse was wanting to pull it out, and I wouldn't let her because I knew it was going to hurt more than it was hurting already. And so they pulled a nurse trick on me. Another nurse came in with a sucker and went on the side and gave me the sucker. I'm like, the sucker tastes good. I turned around, the nail was gone. And then I freaked out. Right. I freaked out because, I felt the pain. I didn't realize it was gone. So then I realized it was gone. Then the pain kicked in. I was like really going crazy. But, that's my story that popped in my head when you said yours.
That's good, man. That's kind of, we're going to continue that this whole hour. Just back to back. Yep. I remember this one.
Yeah, that was my first tetanus shot, by the way.
I was wondering. Wow.
I didn't like that either.
Okay, well, I've got two, and because your head injury one triggered a memory, and you're going down the hill triggered another. So I'll tell you the going down the hill story. So, when I was little, my grandparents lived in Monticello, Indiana, and they were kind of misanthropes, so they lived in the woods at the top of this very long gravel driveway, and it had probably I don't want to say 45 degree, but probably a good 30 degree slope. But the thing is, instead of being straight, it kind of S-curved at the bottom, All right. So one winter, the damn thing was covered with ice, and my sister and my cousin Heather, the three of us decided we want to go sledding down this thing, right?
Right.
And they're older than me. I was younger, and yeah, you can already, yeah.
Mhm.
So I get on the front of the sled. They tell me they're going to get behind me. As soon as I sit down, I feel these hands push me from behind.
Oh.
And I took off. And do you remember Christmas Vacation when Chevy Chase put that lubrication on the bottom of the sled? And
Yeah.
as soon as he started, it was like it was just like that. Like there was no halting, there was no buildup. It was 0 to 60, and I'm going down the thing, and somehow my unathletic ass at the age of whatever it was able to flip around on my stomach because I thought going head first it somehow would be smarter, right, down this icy
Right.
driveway. And I'm sledding down, and remember I said there was an S curve
Yeah.
at the bottom, and I hit this bump that, you know, as it starts to curve around this way, it kind of pitches up, so I hit that bump, and the sled goes up, and I do remember like the distinct feeling of separating from the sled.
Oh,
And instead of screaming bloody murder, I yelled, "I'm Superman!" through the air, and I slammed headfirst into this massive oak that was at the top of that S curve. I mean, I crumpled like that sack of nails, just bam. And of course, they came running down, and they're just freaking out. You know, they're like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay?" And like you, I didn't see any cuts or anything, and you know, I'm alive, so I'm not crying because I don't feel the pain yet. I don't see the wounds. And as soon as they could tell I was still breathing, the first thing they was like, "Don't tell Mom and Dad." And they pushed me.
Right.
That's a kid reaction to "Don't tell Mom and Dad."
Because they know the wrath is coming.
Oh yeah.
Nowadays, it'd be like, "Don't tell her they're going to take away my PlayStation."
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Hell, nowadays we wouldn't be even been outside.
Yeah.
It would have just been a butt whooping. That's it.
Yeah.
For me, it would be. A butt whooping.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, us too. We got our fair share of those, and I guarantee you earned every one of them.
Yeah, same here. While we're on the subject of hills, I remember when I first got my my training wheels off of my bike, and I was so excited. And I remember my sister and I were talking about there was a dead end street down the road, and it was a hill. It was a hill full of houses on either side. And we went to the top of the hill, and my sister was on one sidewalk, and I was on the other sidewalk on either end of this street. And this is a sidewalk that has a ton of driveways that you have to drive through. So we take off, and it's one of those steep hills where you hit the brakes and it ain't going to do anything. I mean, so I remember going down, and someone started backing out of their driveway. So I went to hit my brakes, and instead of slowing down, my bike decided to just get out of control, and I fell on my side and skid underneath the back of this person's car, and my feet got twisted and tangled into the chain of the bike. And luckily the car saw me and stopped, and I didn't get ran over by the wheels. But I mean, I was underneath the car with my bike hanging out, and my foot just tangled into the chains of the bike.
Wow.
And I just remember screaming and it was mostly the road rash more than anything that got me, because I was my skin was chewed up from the sidewalk.
Wow.
And
Okay,
that's
go
about that's it. That's all I remember. I don't remember if I broke anything. I just remember it hurting, and I remember the road rash being terrible.
Okay, so you're triggering all the nightmare moments from my childhood. So I got a good story and a chewed up rash story.
Bring it on.
The first one is my brother was showing me how to ride a bike, and he was real sneaky with it. He was talking to me. He was holding me up as I was pedaling, and he was talking to me, and I'm just talking myself away. And then I asked him a question, and he didn't respond. And I called his name. You know, my brother's name is Tyrone, or we call him Tyrone. And there was no response. So I turned around. My brother's way back at the end of the street where he started holding me up because I never rode a bike before. And he's like celebrating. And then I start wiggling because I know it's just me.
Yep.
And then I fall over, and he's like, "What happened?" I was like, "You weren't holding it." He's like, "No, you literally rode all the way down the street." And what happened? I was like, "I have no idea. I just couldn't control it anymore." But that's the good one. The second one is me and my buddies from school decided to ride long distance on some bikes. They had the good bikes, and I had the bike that we put together.
You assembled your bicycle. Nice.
Already sounding good, right?
Mm.
So everything was working fine until we got to the top of this hill, and then on the other side was just a straight downward slope. So we started going, and they took off, and I'm behind them. They're on 10 speeds, and I'm on like a dirt bike. And I'm trying to keep up. And I'm pedaling away, and in the middle of that fast pedal going, it probably as fast as I've ever gone on a bike down a hill, the chain pops. And once again, I lose control, but at that speed, it just locks, and then I flew. I'm literally airborne, and you know things slow down in slow motion when that happens, and I'm trying to figure out which is the best way to land, but it's just a concrete sidewalk. And I ended up landing like on my shoulder and elbow, and just slid. So yeah, it was not pretty. It took a while to heal up after that. But your bike story triggered that.
Sean, what kind of road rash story you got, man?
All right. All right. So this is embarrassing. What the hell?
Most of them are.
Oh, you don't even know, bro. All right. Actually, I've got a quick one, and then I'll tell you my road rash one.
Okay.
Because I'm going to forget it otherwise. Your head injury story made me remember this. So, when you grow up in the country, your bus rides to and from school can take like an hour, right?
Right.
And those kids that you ride the bus with, they're your country neighbors, so everybody knows everybody. And I don't know why I was fighting. He was my best friend at the time. His name was Duke. His dad was such a fan of John Wayne that he named him John Wayne the Duke. And I'm not going to give his last name.
Yeah.
But we were arguing about something, and he was probably about, 6 or 7 seats ahead of me on the bus on the opposite side, and we're yelling back and forth at each other, and I'm literally 2 stops from my house, and we're yelling at each other, and he turns around, and you remember the old Hot Wheels, like they were legit metal die-cast. All right, do you remember the funny car ones where the top would pop like this?
Yep,
So
I had a few of them.
Okay, me too. So he gets pissed, and he hucks one of those at me. And I was not at the point in the fight where I thought funny cars were going to get brought into the equation. And it flew across the bus and hit me right here in the forehead and cut a V in my skin. And instant blood. Now, here's the thing. I think at the time I was in 4th grade, so not that old.
Right.
And I knew cuss words. And my sister, she comes over to me like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And my fourth grade mouth was like, "You motherfucker, I'm gonna come to your house and I'm gonna kill you and your fucking dad and your fucking..." And my bus driver, Vernon, was so like shocked that came out of my face. He just looked at, he goes, "Hey, stop." And I walked, and we stopped at my house, and I just had a blood waterfall down my face. Yeah, it was a mess. So, all right. So here's
it's not good, but it's good.
No, it's not good. But here's the road rash thing. All right. So a couple years before the funny car incident, I was a latchkey kid. All right, most of us were, and I was at home after school, and I was playing Ninja in the house, and I was getting my ass kicked by the Ninja, right before everything turns and I win. And I had imagined I got like a really hard side kick into my ribs, and I flew back into the wall, and I punched a hole in the drywall about, it was probably 2.5 feet by 3 feet. Just bunk, dented it in. Mm-hmm. And I knew that there was no amount of explanation that would keep me from getting an ass whooping. Mm-hmm. And so I had to injure myself more than the damage. This is what my brain thought. I have to injure myself more than the damage to the wall to get away with it. So what I did was I rubbed my face on the carpet, that old 70s carpet. Ooh. I rubbed my face, and I have a reason for doing it. And I gave myself a road rash, a carpet burn from here all the way down my nose. All right, when it scabbed up, it was all here in like the length of my nose. And what I told my parents when they got home was, the phone was ringing, and I knew that I needed to get to the phone in case it was a message for you guys. And that's very important that I get your messages. And I got tangled up in the chair as I was rounding the table, and it bungled up my legs, and I landed on my face with my feet in the air and slid across the carpet on my face. And this is why this happened. And they both knew I was lying through my teeth, but it's like, what the fuck do we do here? It's like this kid so damaged himself. Like, okay.
You punish yourself.
Yeah, there was no ass beating that was going to compare to rubbing my face off. They just, like, get out, get away from us. And so, yeah.
You have a very creative mind.
Yes.
Yeah, creative and panicked.
Yeah. Man, that 70s rug, man. I remember those in my grandparents' house.
Worse than AstroTurf, dude.
Bad. All right, so off of rug burns and road rash, I have one when I was in, I think, preschool, maybe kindergarten. And I remember my sister and I shared a room upstairs, and we had one of those little doors that were ground level to the attic. They were those little doors, you pop them off so you can get into the attic. And I don't really see those anymore. I don't see them much anymore. But my sister-in-law, I don't know where this came up, but we thought there was a witch that lived in our attic. And I don't know who came up with this story, but me and her, I remember always thinking there was a witch that lived in the attic. And we had cousins over, and my dad was downstairs drinking, and my mom was working, and we were like, let's go find the witch. So we all go in the attic, and you got your beams, and then you've got your insulation, and then the ceiling below. And we were walking across them, giggling, and I remember slipping off one of the beams and my foot going through the ceiling. Ooh. And the kids, instead of helping me, were worried about getting in trouble, so they left. and I ended up falling all the way through the ceiling onto the coffee table into the living room and busted my nose. And my drunk father decides to give me a wad of newspaper and set me on the couch. And several hours later, my mom came home, and I'm sitting there with a broken nose and newspaper with my dad passed out on the couch.
Oh, man.
Son of a bitch.
Wow.
That's probably one of the funniest ones.
That was rough enough, but then you add the drunk dad into the equation, and Jesus, man.
Well, you couldn't have done anything anyways, man. You're so gone. I don't even remember getting in trouble for the ceiling or anything. That's the whole story I remember.
Oh my god. Okay.
I don't know why it triggered this memory, but it has absolutely nothing to do with what you just talked about. Maybe because you mentioned Dad. My father took me fishing one time, way out, and it was such a strange place because the river was there, the bank was there, and there was nothing but like trees behind us, so we had to literally walk through the trees to get to this particular spot that he wanted to fish at. And it was cold, it was boring for me because I was a kid, but he was catching all these little fish like this big. And all day he was catching these little fish like this big, and so he wanted to go to the car and grab something. And he's like, there's nothing around here, it's just you and let's just watch the poles. I'll be back in a couple minutes. And I'm like, okay. It's not like I'm going to go anywhere. I'm not going to go in the water. I'm not going to go back to the woods. So he comes back after 2 minutes, and I'm smiling like ear to ear. And he's like, what? I caught a fish this big in the 2 minutes that he was gone. He's like, where'd that come from? I was like, I caught it. He's like, no way. I was like, yeah, as soon as you left, the pole started going like this, and I just kept pulling and running like you told me to. And when it got close, I saw it flipping, so I just pulled it in with the string, and I just left it on the ground because I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
And I think that was the moment where I pissed him off because he's been trying to show me how to fish all day, and he was catching these little baby fish. And as soon as he goes away for a couple of minutes, I have this epic fish catching moment. And not only did he miss it, but he had to feel embarrassed because his little son just caught one fish that was bigger than all his fish put together.
Yeah.
Now, the proper dad response would be to look at the fish and go, see? I taught you well.
All right.
Take all the glory from you.
But his response was, let's pack it up and go home.
Oh.
he wasn't happy.
Oh, man. That'd be an embarrassing moment as a dad, man. Sean, you got any fishing ones?
No, but I'm sure I do. But I've got a hell of a story off of the falling through the ceiling thing.
Okay.
That you made me think of. So, like I said, I grew up in the country, and we didn't have like video game consoles so much back then. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. And I was over at my cousin Paul's house. Now, their house was built in like 1890 something, and they didn't have like your traditional ductwork and things. So when there was heat, they had floor vents, with the ornate work, and the heat would rise through and heat the floors upstairs.
Right.
And I'm over there with my mom and dad, and they were having card night. So my mom and dad were downstairs in the kitchen with Uncle Mike and Aunt Joyce, and they're playing euchre. Very Midwest game, all right?
Never heard of it.
Euchre?
Mm-hmm.
You've not heard of euchre?
No, we can discuss it later, though.
Bro. Anyway. So they're playing the greatest card game of all time, known as euchre, and Paul and I are upstairs. Now, we happen to be in his bedroom, which is directly above the kitchen where they're playing at the table downstairs. And we're just, you're just trying to find stuff to do and entertain yourselves. And Paul had a dartboard. And this was before safety darts, when we were real men as children, and it had real darts in it. And he had a plastic He-Man shield from a He-Man, shield and sword kit.
Being a dart person, those are the best darts.
Oh, they're fantastic. Yeah. But here's the thing. We came up with this game of we throw the darts at each other and use the shield to block it, right? and we do it in the middle of the room, and I noticed the vent, and I go, dude, should we put something over that? And I literally said this, in case a dart goes through. His reply was, no, Dad gets upset if I put anything over it. Okay. So he throws a couple darts at me. I block him. It's his turn. I throw the first dart. He blocks it. We're having a blast. I throw the second one, and instead of swiping it away, he turns the shield down. Like he blocks down with it, and the dart goes straight through the vent. And all of a sudden we hear this, God damn it, son of a bitch! Just footsteps, boom, 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 And I get snatched out of the room by my dad. He beats my ass all the way down the stairs and into the living room. Uncle Mike is upstairs screaming at Paul, and that, of course, into the night. Now, the other side of this that is so fun, the reason I'm laughing is I can't imagine you're there, you're playing cards with two of your favorite people, everybody's laughing, they're drinking, smoking, you got cards in his hand, and all of a sudden this dart just goes thunk.
Oh!
It went right into his forearm, into the bone.
Ooh.
It was vertical, straight up and down. So he's just there playing cards and then just
And then try to explain that too. Like, we were just throwing darts at each other. No big deal.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I've got similar actually, and it might actually be worse. Just to be honest, it's comical now, but at the time it was terrifying. Thanksgiving, all the adults are upstairs playing cards, and I'm maybe 10, maybe 11, and it's me, my other cousin is about the same age, and then his brother who was 8 or 9. And I'm on the floor with my cousin about my age, and his brother's running around like crazy. And I don't remember what we were doing. Either we were just talking or playing a game. And we were supposed to be watching his little brother, and we weren't. And we didn't realize he was running around with scissors.
Oh.
So we actually noticed that something was wrong when we stopped hearing running around. Like, it went from running around noises to just silence.
Silence is
So
deadly, kids, dude.
he jumped onto one of the lazy boys with the scissors, and then jumped off of the lazy boys and kind of landed like this.
Ooh.
And he got up, and the scissors were partially open right here, and only about that much of the scissor was sticking out. And the blades are about this long.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah. And he wasn't screaming nothing. He just turns around, and we're 10 or 11, we just kind of, oh my god.
Everybody's
and the adults are upstairs just playing cards. So, I just remember being like, how am I going to go explain this? So I remember, because his mom and dad were up there playing cards, so I go up the stairs, I go into the dining room, and I grab my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I really need you to come downstairs. And she comes down there, and it wasn't even like a pissed off look, it was just like oh my god. So I remember the parents My mom went upstairs, grabbed my stepdad and grandparents. They came down, and you could hear them trying to kind of distract the parents until the ambulance got there. And then mom starts freaking. They're like, what's going on? And by the time she sees her kid, man, it was terrifying because nobody took it out, obviously. You had to leave it in.
Yeah. Wow.
And I just remember, like, a week or two later, seeing him again. And luckily, it went into his brain, but not the parts that were, like primarily used, so it didn't, like, affect him. But he had this massive, just, like, scar right here. The whole experience, still to this day, I remember it so well because it was so, like, terrifying.
You know, I just picture you walking upstairs and you're like, Mother, you remember how you said don't run with scissors?
Oh,
now you're going to find this funny.
Yes.
And in an ironic way.
It actually wasn't our fault. We weren't watching him. I guess it is our fault, but it's not because we didn't give him the scissors.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a column A, column B thing, dude. Jesus criminy.
Okay, so I have a story. Doesn't involve scissors.
Right.
But it does involve a clash.
Yeah.
Don't really remember how it happened, and I still can't explain it, even though it was me and I was there. This other guy, we were outside playing at recess. Don't really know what happened. All I know is we had this collision, and after the collision, he's like this, and then he pulls his hand down and his tooth is gone. And everybody's looking at me like, oh! And I'm like, what? What is it? His tooth was right here.
In your forehead?
And yes. So they're like freaking out, and I don't know what's going on. I just know this guy's tooth is missing and he's bleeding, and everybody's freaking out. People are coming and are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. What is everybody freaking out about? And then when I realized what happened, I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. You got to get this out. Give me a shot, something. It was. I don't want the germs behind.
You're worried about the germs, like.
Come on. Human mouths are filthy. I mean, that's
true.
Fact.
That's very true.
But I mean, this is something that occurred in a split of a second, and
wow, dude, do you still have a scar from it?
Yeah, it's you can see it, but yeah, it's still a little scar there. I couldn't believe it.
No.
Flag football. We was playing flag football.
Okay, all right.
Was that at school or at home?
It was at school.
Was it the last time you guys played flag football?
It was the last time I played flag football.
Yeah, I remember something similar happened to this kid named Jason. He got some teeth knocked out, and it was the last time we were allowed to play tackle football at our school. Because we used to play like full-on no-pad tackle football at recess, and I remember that being the last time we were that class. We caused the thing. Okay, so this didn't end up as tragically as the scissors to the head or the tooth to the forehead thing, but the potential could have been vastly worse than anything. Okay, so we're inside, and this was, I think I wasn't in my teenage years. I was old enough to not eat at the kids' table anymore, but I had my cousins Brandy, Aaron, Josh, and Sarah. They were all like anywhere from 8 to 10, something like that. And it was still the time when everybody still had big family reunions, all that stuff. And this was earlier in the day before everybody started fighting over the Bible, which is always how our celebrations ended at our household. Everybody's great during the day, and at the end of the day, the Bible's open and people's fingers are in it and screaming at each other, and grandma's crying in the corner. Just awesome stuff.
Okay.
But the kids had been missing out, and usually kids go outside, they play, but like you didn't hear him. And this is where when you said like he was quiet, and that's kind of when you knew some shit was going down. It was the same thing. We didn't hear them running around screaming outside. It was quiet, right? And we're just that. Even as a teenager, my parental spider sense was going off. Like, there's some shit going on. Not more than 2 minutes after I had that inclination, all 4 of them come inside and reeked of gasoline. Every one of them reeked of gasoline. And they're trying to be all nonchalant about it, but they are soaked from head to toe, every one of them. And we asked them, why do you guys smell? What? Nothing. And finally, I think it was my Uncle Steve was like, we will murder you unless you tell us what happened. And I think my cousin Brandy was like, well, we were playing around with the sprayer outside, and what they had done, these stupid little assholes, is my grandfather, those like weed sprayers where you pump it and you spray the white plastic ones? He had a big like 5-gallon one that what he would do is he would put gasoline into it, and you would burn ditches to keep weeds down. Right? Okay, so that he would spray down the thing with the gas and then burn, and that's what he kept it in. And they treated it like a goddamn super soaker. Like literally the 4 of them are running around, stealing it from one another, spraying each other down with the gas, going, and they were soaked with it. And all of my parents, their parents, everybody smoked. And all it would have taken is one of the parents to go out, because the shed was right behind where they were having the gasoline fight, to walk outside and spark up.
Jeez.
And they would have been burnt to a goddamn crisp, dude. Yeah, that was one of those ones where it was just like the potential for that disaster was so big, and it was so close. And everybody realized it, like, after the fact. Like, it was real quiet for a couple hours that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just knowing how bad it could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say the tube to the forehead, that was my second tetanus shot moment.
Give me the tetanus, give me the skyphalophobia.
Give me everything.
I don't know where that kid's
What's in that syringe is going to help me throw it in there. Just put it in.
Antibiotics, you name it. I want it all.
Oh, man, that gasoline, dude.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've got another story, too, the tooth in the forehead thing.
Yeah, I got a collision one, too, so go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so and she was super nice, this girl named Michelle, and I think she was a grade below my sister. Super, super nice. Not the smartest gal, but super, super nice. And she was riding a bike down the street in the town I grew up near. And somebody had honked at her, waved at her, something. Distracted her from riding her bike. And instead of just, like a quick wave, like, hey, what's up? My understanding of the incident was she's riding the bike, they honked, and she full on turned and was like, hey, like it was in Leave It to Beaver or something, and you would have the time with nothing coming at you because it's a closed goddamn street. She fucking is waving, I don't...
Not paying attention.
For like 10 minutes, I don't know. Turns, and as she turns, she collides with the back of a parked car. She pitches forward, her face slams into the trunk, mouth open. Alright, so she, like that, and she's stuck. Alright, and when she finally kind of comes around, like, oh, okay, pushes herself back, 2 front teeth still stuck in the trunk. Yeah.
I guess we can say she bit the trunk.
You ever tasted car trunk? I have.
Wow, that's a heck of a bite, dude. I mean, I'm assuming that this is the old model car where they were built really durable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that say about her teeth? I mean, that's a heck of a grill.
That's a hell of a bite if you've been into it.
Yeah, but she lost all taste for bicycling after that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm just. I mean, God, dude, can you imagine like just tink, just pull away and just like a field goal.
Wow.
I remember doing a backflip into a pool off of a deck, and instead of landing into the pool, I hit the deck with my mouth, and ripped one of my front teeth right out.
Dude, what?
That's not the collision story though. Hold on.
There's more.
I've got another dart story when we're done with the collision story. I can't believe I have two. Fuck me.
Oh, man,
right,
I knew this episode was going to be good. So I was in like 3rd or 4th grade, and we're hanging out on the playground for recess. And you remember the old Pebbles playground where it was like those rocks?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like that rubber mulch. There was a kid hanging upside down on the monkey bars, and he was showing off as he was trying to like pull his legs between each one and walk through them like individually upside down.
Okay.
And he slipped and fell out, and he face planted with those pebbles, and he gets up and his eye busted open, so there's just like this black there's this black gunk just like oozing down his face, and every kid on that playground was screaming because nobody knew that's what the inside of an eye looked like.
Right,
So,
that's like horror films type of stuff.
Yeah, I remember the kids being like, "Oh my god!" Like, I remember at one point we were talking about him being an alien. We didn't even think he was human because we were like, "Oh my god, that's not blood, that's black." Like, what's going on? So we actually, after that, and then got in the ambulance. I remember all the teachers kind of gathered us together and were explaining what an eye looks like inside and why it looked like that, just to kind of calm us all down because we were freaking out like he wasn't a human being.
Jeez.
There you go.
I almost logged out, just so you know. I've had multiple surgeries to my eyes, and that fucked me up. Like,
it's still to this day, man. It's like just knowing that that's what it looks like inside is creepy enough.
Oh God!
Wow.
Okay. Got any eyes busting open stories?
I don't know if anybody has eye busting open
I do not. That's the first I've heard that. That was wow. I just got these gory
visuals.
Yeah, from like the worst scary movies ever. And people's eyes are just oozing down their face.
Yeah.
Huh.
What do you got, Sean?
All right, so I've had a lifetime of people not listening to me. It's just that for some reason people think they just know better, and I'm like the signpost on the side of the road going, okay. Like I said the thing, you don't want to listen, don't fucking listen. Same thing with my cousin Paul and the goddamn dart game. So I was living at Central High Apartments in South Bend, and if you ever saw the movie Hoosiers, Central High actually was the high school that the kids went to, that the guys from Hickory played in the state finals. Okay. So it was a really cool apartments because every room was like one of the classrooms, and even one of the rooms was the old swimming pool. Like, it's a very cool place, right? Well, I'm there with my girlfriend at the time, and her family was coming over for dinner. And it was Christmas. That was why they'd come over for Christmas. And she got a dartboard for Christmas. And she really wanted to play darts. But being an oldie-timey school, those walls were solid, concrete. And I was like, there's no way we're hammering into this thing. I don't have a hammer drill. We don't have anchors. We'll need to get some 3M tape, yada, yada, yada. but she really wanted to play, and she was all upset because she couldn't play darts, and instead of just, telling her, like, just relax, you can play darts later, her stepdad said, I'll hold the dartboard. And I said, wait, what? And he said, yeah, I'll hold the dartboard, no big deal. You guys will just hit the middle. I said, dude, this is a bad idea on, like,
so many levels.
Why do I even have to explain this? This is the dumbest thing ever. No, look, and all three of them, my ex, her mom, and her sister were all just like, yeah, this is the greatest idea ever. And I said, no, it's not. And he said, no, I'll hold it like this in front of my face so I don't get hit. I said, you know what? Fine.
Yep.
Do as thou wilt. Okay? So he's standing in the hallway, and the very first shot, not 10 shots down, the very first shot, she lobs it instead of throwing it directly at the board. She fucking lobs it like you're tossing popcorn into a friend's mouth, and it goes up and over the dartboard and lands. And just like my uncle, he drops the dartboard down. His eyes are like this, and it's just going ding, 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 ding. It's straight up. And everybody's just, their mouths hang open, and I'm just going,
Yep.
I told you. I'm going to be that guy. I told you. I said this would happen.
And that was the first.
First freaking one.
That's the kind of response I have when I know I'm right with my wife. It's like, I know I'm rarely right, so when I am right, I'm like, see?
Yeah.
I'm going to go out of my way to prove that I was right.
Yeah. Look at the destruction that you have wrought. That had nothing to do with me. And I called it.
Right. Wow.
That's funny. Evolution, what you got, man?
Man, I'm still just blown away by y'all's stories. I don't have anything that competes with that.
I don't think it's a competition. I think Jukebox won with a blown out eye.
No kidding. That was massive. Wow.
Definitely wake up. If you weren't awake, you are now. You got nothing, Evolution? No?
Well, the only thing that's coming to mind now is a basketball injury I had. It was a very good day on the basketball court, by the way. But there was a piece of the concrete that was missing up under the goal. And for some reason, I had the fortune of landing in that one spot that I probably shouldn't have landed in. And so here's my foot. And the concrete is here, but there's a little piece, like a little V, missing. So the front of my foot landed like right in front of that little area that's missing. And then when my foot dropped down, it went down like this and then rolled over. And I had my full body weight plus coming down was on that spot. And when it happened, I literally heard it rip. I heard it rip. So I knew I was done. And then when I rolled over to try to keep it from being the worst it could be, I just sat up. I said, I'm done. He was like, what do you mean? I said, you have no idea. I said, I'm done. He was like, what happened? I was like, something ripped, and I'm going to have to figure out how to drive to the hospital because I was by myself, meeting some friends, and, the right foot is what you drive with. So I'm like crawling up the stairs to get to my car and, trying to drive with my left foot to go to the hospital. I'm calling people, saying, hey, this is what happened. Meet me at the hospital. By the time I get to the hospital, I have this elephant foot.
Yeah.
So like from mid calf down to like half my foot, it's like swole and then they take everything off, and it's like black and blue, and I'm like, what the heck did I do? And at the end of it all, it was like ligament tears on the inside and outside, and that is the absolute worst. I mean, I've broken, had fractured ankles and stuff before. It is nothing like the pain I felt from torn ligaments, man. It was the worst. And then, and through the healing process, which took forever.
Yep.
I'm elevating it, and I just remember being in my bed. I had to go to the bathroom, and I was really dreading to go to the bathroom because I knew once I dropped that from elevation, the pain I was going to feel. And I waited as long as I could, and I said, okay, gotta go. I dropped my ankle from elevation, and just from the blood going back down to the ankle, it felt like knives was just all around my ankle, just going inside, going straight down. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
The worst pain ever. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but yeah, that's what I got.
That's pretty brutal, man. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had foot injuries, so not to that extreme.
Yeah,
I've had a hairline fracture in my foot. But
No, that's pretty good. I mean, Jesus, dude.
Man, the stuff that you laugh at now, like that we were laughing about on here, man, at the time, I remember most of it just being absolutely terrifying moments.
Heck yeah. I mean, the worst ever. I mean, I still can't imagine what it was like to see an eyeball ooze like that.
I still remember thinking, like, all of us kids were like, man, that kid, he's not human. He can't be human. What is that? When you're that young, you don't know that that's what's inside of that.
And then I'm thinking about, as a parent, what would be my response if I walked into a room and saw like scissors in my child's face like that? I'd just lose it.
I know what my response would be. Be like,
backhand me.
Now, Jimmy, that's not how you use those.
That's why we couldn't find the scissors earlier.
Oh man.
Every time I need them, yeah, kids have them.
All right, I got one more, like, little small one, and then I'll let you guys get one more in, and then we'll wrap it up. But
okay.
You guys remember? And I've talked about this on here before, but I don't think with you guys. You remember slip and slides?
Mm-hmm.
I know they're still around, but back when you were younger, they were basically just a cut up piece of tarp that you'd lay on the ground, and we had one, and we had it in our backyard, and we had a bunch of acorns in the backyard. And I went to slide across the slip and slide, which when we did slip and slide, we used to take Dawn soap and then put it on there, and then we'd get it wet so that you could really slide. And there was an acorn sticking up underneath the tarp, and we go to slide, and my leg from the ankle all the way up to the knee just gets cut open. It wasn't deep, but like paper cuts, how they hurt real bad.
Yeah.
So it was like that from my ankle all the way up to my knee. And now, even to this day, I have a line where there's no hair that grows.
Jesus Christ, dude.
And I'm thinking about this soap that you use. It had to sting a little bit too, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, it burned for a while.
But the cut was clean, so it's fair.
Yeah, it was a clean cut. Yeah, that's why I saved this one for last. It's good and comical.
Nice.
It wasn't enough to really cause serious injury, but it hurt like hell. Like I said, I remember it feeling like a paper cut. Man, it was so bad.
Jeez.
What you guys got? Let's wrap it up with one more short but comical something.
Comical.
Jeez.
I have something. I don't know why I remembered this from your slip and slide, but it was something that happened in a high school play.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Worst High School Play in the World, and if you ever have a chance, it is hilarious. It is one of the funniest things I've ever been a part of. Mm-hmm. And it's written as a comical farce, basically send up of high school plays, and it's centers around a prince whose kidnapped and then gets lost in the wood and is raised by squirrels, and he comes back to save his kingdom. Okay? But everything is meant to go wrong, and if more stuff goes wrong, the better the play is. And I remember this one part. I had the co-lead, so I only did like a few things backstage, so I wasn't really well versed with how, like everything would work back there because I was out front so much.
Right.
Well, I didn't have the amount of time to train backstage, to do the two things I needed to do. Well,
Right.
One of the things I had to do was the narrators are out on stage and they say, "The sun will rise over Saxonia again when the prince comes back." And what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to unwind this fishing line, drop this big, massive cutout of a sun down, right? And then they say, "Will rise again," and then I lift it back up into the rafters. Well, so I go back there and I unwind it from the cleats and I let it down. And when they give the cue, I start trying to pull it back up, and it got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pull it like this to try and get it to, break loose or whatever, and it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pull again, and it still wouldn't move. All right. And I had real anger problems back then. I had them for a long time, actually. And so I'm just like, "You motherfucking son of a bitch, you goddamn." And I'm not even thinking about it. They can hear me. There's like 300 people in the auditorium. Not only that, but out front, and I saw it on the video, this massive sun is going into the curtains and back down and bouncing in and out. So every time you see it go boing, boing, motherfucking son of a bitch, and goddamn. And the stage manager comes running back. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to get the fucking sun." So, yeah.
Good. Worst play ever, for sure.
Well, the only thing I got that comes to mind is absolutely different than everything that you guys said. You remember those long phone cords?
So you can go in other rooms and talk on the phone?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So we had one of those, and my mother was talking. She was on the couch, and the cord went from there all the way to the phone that was on the wall.
Right.
So I'm bored. I'm at home. Want to do some fun. So I'm like playing. I'm jumping over it and going under it, jumping over it, going under it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last time, I kind of missed my mark.
Right.
So I landed on the cord. It shoots out my mother's hand. She's in the middle of a conversation. and of all places, my little sister's on the other side. right smack in the face, dude. And I mean, you can't make. I mean, you just can't plan something that happened that accurate.
Yeah. If you're like me and you and your sister used to argue a lot, that was probably very comical.
Yeah, and of course my mother was upset. Sister was like crying and stuff, but I was laughing because it was so funny to me. And what are the odds of that happening? But I got in trouble, of course. But I think the thing that irritated my mother the most was I interrupted her phone call.
Right.
She made sure my sister was okay, but yeah, I interrupted the phone call by doing that. But that's what came to mind.
we used to play jump rope with that cord.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I remember that all too well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We had one, and I had a teenage sister, so it was always stretched to max capacity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Between my sister and my mom, that phone was always being used. And if you had AOL dial-up or the first internet, you were never on the internet because it was always being used.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up for today, guys. What'd you think? Pretty good?
That was fun.
Man, you drew some memories that were tucked away for years. So, congratulations.
Yeah. You know, I thought of this topic. Something happened. I don't remember what it was, a couple weeks ago, because I remember mentioning it to you, Evolution, and yeah, that's a good idea, because I was like, man, there's so many things that I remember just being traumatic, and that's it. Like, there's gaps in months in between all these events that I don't remember any of, but these are specific things like stuck out to me. So I was like, I bet you we could do a good episode of that. And honestly, I bet you we could go another hour or two. But we're not.
You could do a part, dude. You could do a part 2 of this easily. Because now my brain just thinking of all the stuff. You know, it's like you knew we had exploding eyeballs and dart tragedies and teeth and forehead stories. Like, you know,
Nowadays, it's kids breaking their controllers and being pissed off because they couldn't play their video games.
I know that. Nothing that comes close to what we experienced.
We almost died. Now that was living.
That was awesome. We were laughing about it.
Right?
All these Gen Zers over here like, what? These kids grew up in some podunk little towns.
Yeah.
It was more like we grew up before the internet.
Okay, so I'm kind of reflecting on what just happened here.
Okay.
These kids are spraying each other with gasoline. I mean, doesn't something about that make you want to stop? I mean, if it gets in your eye or mouth,
you would think.
And the smell alone would just...
Oh yeah, you would know.
I didn't say they were smart kids. I just think that the devastation that could have happened. I mean, God was watching, man. That's the only thing I can say.
Absolutely. But I guess the other thing that really blows me away is how they walk in the house like nothing ever happened, and they're reeking of gasoline.
If we just don't say anything,
nobody will notice.
Yeah,
you got that Old Spice spray on you, which is
add more chemicals to the.
Oh jeez!
Oh my God!
Wow.
Well, everybody, with that being said, we're going to wrap this episode up. Shank Ev.O.Lution, appreciate both of you coming on, of course.
Hey, man, thanks. Glad to be here always.
Yeah. And you guys are going to be seeing these guys around. They both have shows on the channel. And I'm really excited about the direction that JG's Lounge, and we actually have a meeting tonight with a potential partnership with our audio platforms. And Sean, it'll be me and my admins with this guy, and I'll keep you in the loop about it. But it could be something potentially really big.
That's what she said.
So yes, that's what she said.
Right.
But we'll be in touch about that. And to everybody watching, it looks like several people tuned in and popped on and off throughout the episode. So I appreciate you guys. To everybody that's going to be listening later on, thank you for checking out Stardom. And always being supportive of what we do here on the channel. So until next time, we'll see you guys around.
Take care.